Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. Again, I welcome all of you to our humble church in this beautiful seminar. It's the biblical creation in an age of science, and my role here is to talk about biblical geology, the big picture. So I have to introduce first my friend, Fred Flintstone, my assistant, who is very important to the geology science, of course, because his name is Flintstone. So he is my assistant. He couldn't come today, so he passes an apologies to you. The Word of God. The Word of God. See what Solomon says about the Word of God. Every Word of God is tested. Every Word of God is tested. He is a shield to those who take refuge in Him. So there is no Word of God is not tested to be false or anything like that. So what's biblical geology? Biblical geology, from my perspective, has got four major disciplines. We have creation geology, which is concerned with the geology of the 6-7 days of creation. Then we have the flood geology, the geology of the 1 year plus of Noah's flood. And we have prophetical and eschatological geology, things that God has prophesied through or foretold us through His prophets that's going to happen, and it happened, and we can test them archaeologically. And eschatological means the geology that's going to happen, like in the book of Revelation and in other last day prophetical things. And there is general geology. Unfortunately, some people shortens or make the geology in the Bible very small portion, and when we talk about creation and we talk about the flood geology, but we ignore sometimes that the Bible is full of geological events that we could reconstruct our history or our historical geology from the Bible to a great extent. When he talks about earthquakes, volcanoes, famines, floods, everything, we can put this into an order. I used to call it geology chronicles. And I think it is one of the most important tools that we can use. So these are some disciplines that the Bible talked about in geology, ranging from mining and petroleum geology to gemology and all that kind of stuff, to weathering, sedimentation, and topography, geomorphology, and all that things. So I'm not going to bother you with all these things, but today we are looking at what is the difference between evolution and creation. Number one, it is a debate about origins. A debate about origins. So I don't know whether we can read it from there or not, but the atheistic worldview is we do not know, but we are certain that there is no creator. We don't know. Ask them about how old is this thing? Probably 7 billion years, give or take 10 million years. We don't know, but there is no creator. This is the fact. As for us believers, we know, because I've got an eyewitness that is God who wrote to us what happened. So we know the truth. And we are certain as well that there is a creator. And they have got uncertain faith, we have got certain faith. What is the origins of all about? What is the beginning of time and space? What is the beginning of energy? What is the beginning of mass? What is the beginning of language? What is the beginning of emotions, feelings, morals, everything? Book of Genesis specified all those beginnings, one by one, without missing anything. So they imagine that you were one time some chemical in the promoidal soup, and those promoidal chemicals made you, and you love your parents because there is atomic attractions between you and your parents. This is how love or emotions started. So atheistic view, they believe, fortunately like us, they believe that everything came into being out of nothing, ex nihilo, but without a creator. We believe that everything came into being from nothing, ex nihilo, but through a creator. So this is simply is debate over origins. Again, Gideon touched upon this. We have got two major camps: evolution with some creationists and creationists. Evolution believe in billions and millions of years, and there are two schools: the atheistic evolution and the theistic evolution. And the theistic has got again two classes, if you like. God interferes in cosmos, God does not interfere in cosmos. The theistic evolution, pantheistic evolution, and creationists are also divided into two classes: the old earthers and the young earthers. Old earthers, like the evolutionists, believe in billions and millions of years. Young earthers believe in 6 creation, 24 hours day period according to the book of Genesis. Old earthers, quickly, I'm not going again to talk much about it. I've got so many ideas. Local creation theory, they put a previous creation before Genesis 1, and then God created the second creation in Genesis 1. There's the gap theory. They put a gap between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2, just to compromise or accommodate for the pseudoscience that we are bombarded with. Long day theory, the day is millions and billions of years, so every day in the creation has lasted for billions of years. So you have, say, 300,000 million years daytime and 300,000 million years nighttime, which is not logic, of course. And there is the day-age theory. Well, these people are very clever. They said God created on day 1, yes, but he rested for millions of billions of years, and then remembered to complete his creation in day 2, and then took a nap for another billion years, and so on. This is the day-age theory. And we have also the revelatory day theory, which says that, well, the day in the book of Genesis, it is divine day. It is not our day. It is God's day. So he is, free to call it whatever. It is a revelatory day, and it is something similar. The cosmic day theory. Cosmic day theory basically is, well, day on Earth is 24 hours. What about day on Mars? What about the day of the galaxy? What about this? So there is a cosmic day input there, which is similar to the revelatory day theory. I'm not going to discuss every single one, but there's also debate over the process that is used. Evolution say that from microbe through fish to you, as Gideon said, from frog to prince, Habra, it became a human being, or from go to you, as some people say, or it was through love and intelligent design. So there is also 2 schools in this area. And when it comes to creation, we have few ideas on how God created the world. Was it supernaturally, he said, I'm done, or mature creation, or accelerated maturation? I will not bother you with all these details. But let us talk geology. I will touch upon 4 things. First thing is the age dating, which is shared between physics and the geology in some areas. And I'll talk about fossils, dinosaur and human fossils in particular. I will talk a little bit about stratigraphy and plate tectonics. So age dating method, and I would like you to help me with this. What do you know about age dating? How many methods that you know about age dating? Please put up your hand and tell me. What do you know about age dating?
Carbon-14.
Carbon-14, yes, good.
Potassium argon. Is it argon or something?
Argon, yeah, potassium argon, yes. What else?
The layers of rocks.
The light travel?
The layers.
Layers, stratigraphy, yes, good. What else? Uranium lead. So basically what you are talking about, you're talking about relative and what they call absolute age dating. Relative age dating is, okay, this thing is younger than this thing because it is above this thing. So this must have been put in place first and then someone came and put this later on, and this is they call the law of superposition, which was invented in the 16th century, invented by Nicholas Steele, but it's of course a very logical thing to do. And absolute, what they call absolute, is the radioactive age dating, which is complete rubbish. It is not absolute or anything like that. However, you talked about radioactive age dating, you talked about, but we did not mention fossils. Fossils is very important in our age dating. And the sedimentation rate, they go to, say, a river bank and see how much the flood caused of sediments this year. So calculating the amount of sediments in that area, then we have all these sediments of the river accumulated over billions of years or billions of years. Salinity, weathering rates, salinity, water salinity rates, tree rings and ice core rings. We have got hundreds of ways to tell the age of the rocks. So let us talk first about radiometric age dating. This is the definition from the National Geographic Society. I will not read it, but it is simply every radioactive isotope would try to go down to more stable isotope or more stable element through a specific period of time. It reaches half of its amount during a specific time. They call it the half-life time of the isotope. Then if we know the original amount of the isotope, the final amount of the element that it produced, we know the half-life time, then we can tell the age of the rock. So let us discuss why we refute, why we don't believe in radioactive age dating. We have got fatal assumptions in it. Number one assumption, Gideon said that the universe is 13.8 billion years. Age is 4.6 billion years. Over all this period of time that is measured in billions of years, the radioactive decay rate was constant. Can you prove that? No way. No one can prove that the radioactive decay rate is constant throughout time, and I will give you more information about this. And we assume that the rocks that we are dating are in a closed system. Nothing can penetrate to the rock, nothing can go out of the rock. No enrichment, no leaching of the same element. Do you know any rock system in the world that is closed? Like, plastic system or glass system that can prevent penetration and leaching? There is nothing. Samples are not contaminated. When I go in the field, I collect the samples, I could contaminate the samples very easily. The amount of the original element, which we call the parent element, because now we are gender neutral, the parent element, we know that the amount of the parent element in the rock is fixed. We don't know that. We assume that we know the amount of the parent element is known. The same thing goes to the amount of the daughter element. We should call this the child element to be friendly with our gender neutral people. The instruments that we use are accurate, but how we can calibrate an instrument on something that we don't know the age of to start with? You know, when you get a pipette or titration, you can measure the volumes. It is in front of your arm. But how can you calibrate an instrument that measures millions or billions of years, and we say that it is accurate? And there is no human errors. And the age determination is based on something very funny. It is statistical and probabilistic models. And every lab and every method would have a different statistical and probabilistic models. That's why we get different ages from different labs and different techniques. And we assume that those models are correct. Again, when we have in geology, we don't have a book from page 1 to page 100 without missing any pages in between. Geology is known to have missing so many layers. So if I've got a missing layer in our geologic record, there is no way to know the age of that missing layer and how long it was there. Last thing, and the most fatal, I called it here prejudice presumption, that the dates we get from the radioactive age dating must be old to fit our world view. They must be old. So, for example, I give you this in the flows, in the next slide or two. When they collect the sample, every organic sample would have carbon-14. And probably they would do uranium, lead, or potassium-40 or whatever radioactive age dating on it. They will dishonor, discredit, ignore, overlook the presence of carbon-14 because the carbon-14 gives age less than 50,000 years. And they will go for potassium that will give them 300 million years. So there is a problem here that it must be an old age. Do we have any other factors that may affect the radioactive age dating? Yes. And I'll go them quickly. Sun neutrinos affect the age. Sun radiations, the sun magnetic field, cosmic radiation, Earth magnetism, the decay process. The decay process, uranium, thorium, could go through different paths. So in the middle, it can go, for example, to uranium 235. In other process, it can go to another isotope. The age or the time that each isotope stayed in place, we don't know. We have only uranium, thorium. So every process or every decay process would have different times. Multiple geological events. Every time you have got volcanism or metamorphism or anything like that, this would affect the age of the rock and it affects how we can measure the radioactivity of it. Temperature increases the age of the rock because it activates the electrons in the atoms to higher levels and then gives us wrong radioactive age dating. And pressure. You heard of the piezoelectric effect. Piezoelectric effect was very common in the watches before the digital time. When you press a quartz crystal, it emits electricity. Electricity would accelerate the electrons and accelerate the energy in the atom to give us again a wrong radioactive age dating, and the presence of water affects. If you look at them, probably all of them were available during the time of creation in the beginning. Earth was very hot, the sun was there, and temperature, pressure, and presence of water, all of that is mentioned in the creation history. Flaws in radioactive age dating. We have circular reasoning. The rock determines the age of the strata, the formation, and the formation determines the age of the rock. So I've got this sample. It must give me, say, 65 million years because it is from the Cretaceous. If it doesn't, then it is no good. And I took it from the Cretaceous, so I expect. You see the circular reasoning here? The second flow, data selectivity, and I talked to you about it before. The third one is the presence of carbon-14 in every organic sample that they never reported to serve their purpose and lives. I have got to this point where I believe the age of the Earth is a hoax. Why? How do they determine the age of the Earth? Anyone knows? Yeah, I get you, I know. Anyone knows how we determine the age of the Earth? It is 4.6. Do you know how we got this? It's easy. They measured the age of a meteorite. They believe it was the oldest meteorite that hit the Earth. It was called the Mauritian, and for our luck, it was here in Australia. It hit Australia. They measured the meteorite, and it gave them 4.6 billion years. So this must be the age of the Earth, because meteorites are formed during the time of the formation of the Earth. Is that true? Number one, this is an assumption. It could form before or after. We don't know. Not because it is the oldest, it must have been formed during or with the formation of the Earth. Number two, they assume that the decay rate was constant for 4.6 billion years, as we talked. Number three, that meteorite has got a clock inside, the radioactive clock, and that was ticking in a different time frame to our time frame. It was ticking outside the space at its speed. We don't know how much velocity it was traveling at. It could be traveling very fast or very slow. So how can we conclude the real age if it was not clicking at our own clock? Just something to ponder upon. They call it the time delay, and Professor Hartnett is a master in this. I cannot, say much in his presence when it comes to this. Fossils. Yes, fossils are used to determine the age of the rock. Right? Right. And rocks are used to determine the age of the fossils. Right?
Yeah.
So which determines which? Again, circular referencing or reasoning, we do not buy into it. Other problems with fossils is the Lazarus effect. Sometimes we believe that this species is extinct. Later on, few thousand years, few hundred years, we discover it is still swimming in the oceans or is still alive somewhere, and they call it a Lazarus effect because as if it is risen from death. There is also the index fossils. Sometimes we put a range of age for a certain fossil from here to there. Further studies proves to us that no, it extends to here or it goes down to here. So index fossils also are not conclusive indicators. And reworked fossils, you may have something from the Cretaceous reworked in the Paleocene, or something from the Miocene penetrated down to Jurassic. So you cannot tell whether it is in situ or not. And last thing that I'd like to talk about is the OOP arts, the out-of-place artifacts. And there are plenty of them. I won't, bother you with all of them. The OOP arts, one of the very most prominent OOP art is the London Hammer. And there is a bell found in coal along, and that is dated back to 300, 400 million years ago, to the time of the Carboniferous. So this is a gentleman, a paleontologist, dating a fossil. So he asked him, okay, how old are you? She tells him, well, I'm 5,000 years old only. He doesn't like this. Yeah, you are a lawyer. You are 5 billion years old or 5 million years old. So fossils do not come with an age label. They don't lie. Geologists do sometimes lie. When I was at college, first lesson I learned from my professors is geology is not a science. Geology is an art, and it is the art of maybe. You have to say maybe in front of every word you say. So this is the dilemma we live in. A few weeks ago, we went to the Australian Museum Western Australian Museum, and they told us the story of the dinosaurs. And the first thing they introduced us to was the meteorite that was 65 million years ago that hit the world and vanished dinosaurs and made them extinct. So I was stunned by this story, not because of first time I heard it, but because it was my chance to challenge the guy. I asked him a very simple question. Was it one event of meteorite hitting the earth and vanished all dinosaurs, or was it multiple events of meteorites hitting the earth? He said, I know. He was not a geologist, so I'll give him that excuse. He said, well, I understand that it was one hit and the 65 million years time, 65.6, something like this, that vanished all dinosaurs and other animals from existence. I asked him then, is there any scientific explanation why do we have mass graveyards throughout the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous? Dinosaurs, seldom to find this dinosaur fossil on its own. You have to find them in mass graves, in certain positions, in mostly mud environment, when the necks turning back because the water was gushing into them, and or going quickly, running because the water is, trying to drown them. And I asked him, why do we have the mass graveyards? And these are three examples of the mass graveyards that we talk about. One of them is in the backyard of the Smithsonian Museum that goes back to 110 million years. Another one in South Africa, 20 million years old. So either it was not one single event of meteorites and they got it wrong, or it was within a short period of time, like 1 year, all these animals died within one event that is known as flood. And was it really 65 million years ago? What about this picture? This is a cave that they discovered in 2017 in Kuwait. Can you see? They are hunting dinosaurs, and they are cooking dinosaurs, and they are dancing because they are happy hunting dinosaurs. Can you say anything that they are not dinosaurs? Okay? But guess what? This is the picture that you'll probably find now on almost every archaeological or geological site in the net. They remove the dinosaurs so that they can come back later and say, well, it is photoshopped. This is the original one, and you added the dinosaurs later on. Believe it or not. What about this? This goes back to 100 BC. It shows the Palestrina, it's called the Palestrina mosaic from Egypt, where I'm originally from. It has got writings in Greek on it, and it shows Egyptians going hunting dinosaurs in Upper Egypt, North Sudan. Not only one dinosaur, the poor one in the left there, but there are other 3 dinosaurs on the right hand side. This one is a tricky one. This is in Eastern Desert, just on the border of the foothill of the Red Sea Mountains. The blue line there is the Red Sea, and the one that is in the middle of the picture probably is a mastodon. It has got a dome head, not like the African elephant, not like any other Asian elephant. It has got this dome, which is characteristic to mastodons. This is not my interest, because we talk about dinosaurs, remember? My interest is that small figure on the top of the picture. Might not be clear, so let us put some highlights on it. The artist was so clever, showing the lioness attacking the Brachiosaurus, and he left the impression of the bite of the lioness on the neck of the Brachiosaurus. Do you agree with me, or am I hallucinating here? Okay. And this is from Egypt, but further south in Nubia. This is not crocodile, by the way. Crocodile walks like, feet aside. It walks here on 4 vertical feet. And I would like you to contemplate on the beauty of this Nubian house with all the beautiful ornamentations in the front. Right? So it is not like, a careless job of an artist who confused crocodile with dinosaur. Right? What is this? A British soldier with a gun trying to put down the dinosaur. And it is not a recent thing, probably 18th, 19th century, when the British occupied that part of Egypt. This is another drawing, petroglyph in Saudi Arabia, north of Saudi Arabia, northwest. There is 2 big things here. A very long snake, probably 12 meters, if you count how many dogs are attacking them. So you can roughly estimate the length of the snake, and below it there's another creature with a bigger head and with feet and with a hump, and there's another pack of dogs attacking it as well. I should search throughout all my zoology books and try to identify this alien animal. I couldn't get any identification other than it is sauropod. In the church here, probably you have seen St. George riding on his horse and killing the dragon. And unfortunately, St. George's Bank kept St. George away and got the dragon as its emblem or logo. It's so weird. The other one is a wooden artifact in the Coptic Museum in Cairo. It has got this. What is this? A sheep swimming in the water? Again, this is during the Civil War in America, 1860. A group of soldiers had this beautiful picture with a pterodactyl. But of course, evolutionists trying to discredit all these pictures, right, left, and center. Again, this is probably, you know about it. This is how our Yarrow Aboriginal people described an incident of a servant was stolen by a marine dinosaur, and when they asked to depict it in painting and drawing, this is how they came up with. Now, are you ready for a quiz? Biblical Geology quiz. What is this? Bunyip. Ah, very good. You know your history very good. What's a bunyip? Frog? No, okay. We go to human evolution. Human evolution, of course, they are shoving it down our throats because they don't want God in the image. And these are the famous human fossils: Neanderthal man, Java, Plateau down, Nebraska, down to Lucy. I won't talk about many of them, only Neanderthal man and Lucy. Neanderthal man was discovered in 1856. The skull cap and some bones of the limb that was crushed. They said he was human but with deformed vertebra, and that was in North Croatia. Anyone from Croatia here? Okay, this place is North Croatia, and they kept digging out Neanderthal men from their team now. Reconstructed by this guy, Marcel Bull, to look like an ape. I want you to understand that there is something called artist impression. So they give you a human image and tell you, well, I want you to add some, fascinating features on him, like hairs on the skin, like eyes without the white part of it, like big claws, whatever. So, because these parts of any animal soft skin is not preserved paleontologically, so you are free to draw them whatever you want. So that Marcel guy had him like an ape-like, and in 1957 they discovered that it was reconstructed faultily. Neanderthal man now is well known to be a human, full human, interbred with Homo sapiens, and the difference between Homo sapiens, which is us, and the Neanderthal is only 6% of some genetics, which could be for geographic isolation or different accommodation to the environment. My favorite girlfriend, Lucy. Lucy was discovered in 1974. 40% of the skeleton, 3.5 million years old, and they have provided some evidence of the discovery. The arm-leg ratio 83.9, similar to humans, and hip-pelvis ear connection suggested that she was walking upright, and the knee joint walked upright. So observations, fingers long and curved for climbing, and shoulders laid like a gorilla, and brain size of a chimpanzee. So this is Lucy, a humanoid that they found in Ethiopia. So is there frauds in what we have seen? Yes, very much indeed. Like this, Haeckel's genealogical evolution that was proven to be a fraud, a hoax, a deliberate hoax, but still, unfortunately, they teach it in the medical textbooks and the biology textbooks. So they still in high school teach that Neanderthal man is not a human being. They put him like an ape, still now in our schools. And Lucy, let us again, Lucy reconstructed. Leg bones broken in two places and one end was crushed completely. This would invalidate the ratio of 84% straight away. We don't know how much is missed. Number two, the hip pelvis was reshaped to fit the idea of walking upright. And I will tell you how they reshaped the pelvis. Knees and joint were found 1 mile away, 20 feet deep, around 70 meters deep, in strata from rest of bones. Fossil remains of two different creatures fitted to form a make-believe creature. From this to this, they had to power so the hip bone to fit Lucy to be looking like walking upright. Got the bone and chop it off. Biblical Geology quiz, another quiz. How many kinds you can pick out of this chart? How many species? How many genus, genera? And this is the game of skulls. Every skull they find, they make a new genus or species or whatever.
Dogs.
You are right, all of them are one species, dogs breeds, different dogs breeds. So when we see different skulls of dinosaurs or chimpanzees or whatever, we have to ask this question first. Are they lumpers or splitters? Splitters are those who put, every skull to different species. Lumpers would get all of them together. Another quiz. Can you spot the scientific difference in these two identical shapes? To the right is the human evolution, to the left is our TV evolution. Can you see the similarities in there? Yeah, there is one TV with 4 legs there. Anyways, not because they are similar, they are evolved from each other. They are similar because there is one designer for them who use the same logic. So I'll probably conclude here with this slide again. I've still got the stratigraphy and plate tectonics. Maybe one other time. Thank you very much for your listening.